Welcome to East by West Farms. Here we grow what we eat and eat what we grow. Today I'm going to talk about seeds, specifically seeds of squashes. This is part 3 of a series that talking about seeds. In part 1, we talk about legumes. In part 2, we talk about leafy vegetables and the nightshade plants. The idea is to plant your seeds according to families so that you have all-season vegetables from a specific family that will provide you whole food diet throughout the year. We're going to talk about squashes. The thing with squashes, of course, is that they only grow in warm and hot weathers. I don't know any squash plant that will grow in winter or cool season. So if you know that, please leave the comment below, and I would definitely like to give that a try. The nice thing about squashes, some of them you can save them and then eat them throughout the winter. So for example, for us, we had an amazing harvest of butternut squash and wax melon from last year. Now it's end of February and early March, and we are still eating these squashes, and I think we still have enough probably last through end of March. Now is a time that we can start to think about seeding squashes, especially if you have a greenhouse. If you don't have a greenhouse, if you want to direct sow, that's a little bit too early, and you may want to wait a little bit longer. The first squash I will start to seed is cucumbers. They are, compared to other squash I have, they can start earlier, and they don't like too hot weather. So usually I started them in maybe April or later March, and then they can produce in 2 or 3 weeks after they sprouted, and then they will last for until probably end of May or early June for A to B, and then they will die out. If you are diligent, you might even get another season in the fall if you plant, say, in August in the shade, and then get another fall crop. Last year we had so many cucumbers that Chris, I keep complaining that we planted too many cucumber, and Chris have to say, stop complaining that we have too many cucumbers. Of course, you can pickle them, and you can eat them raw. It's a great squash to have. All of them require about 80 to 90 degrees Fahrenheit to germinate. So they are really summer, they are squashes growing in summer. The first one I have is the fuzzy melon. I got some seeds from the fuzzy melon I ate last year, and that's what we got our huge harvest, but I still want to try one from store-bought seeds and to see what's the difference. The nice thing about most of squash, if you grow yourself, you can collect the seeds, and then you don't need buy seeds anymore. The second one is the squash that I really like, but I haven't had much luck growing it, probably because it needs more sun, and I hope that in the farm it will do better. So that's the Chinese okra or luffa. It's a very tasty squash that in summer for soup, it's a summer squash for soup. You can also let it go into seeds, and then that will give you sponges to take for taking a shower or to wash dishes. What I hope is I get enough sponge from this seed package that so I don't need to buy these plastic sponges from the store anymore. So that's biodegradable, and so it's very environmental friendly. This one is the giant bottle gourd. It's not for eating. This year we had lots of butternut squash, and we figured out a way that we can make butternut squash liquor. Right now I'm use the wine bottle to store that. So that's why I bought this seed package, is that I want to get this butterscotch as a wine bottle for me to store the butternut liquor that we will make. I can see that we will make a lot of those in the future. You have the bitter melon. Supposed to be very good for people with diabetes, and I just like the taste of it. You can cook with meat, you can cook with eggs. It's a great, it's one of my favorite squash. All those, I don't think they can store well in summer. The next one is the calabash lawn. That is kind of like similar to fuzzy squash when they are young. The thing with fuzzy squash is you can eat them when they are young, and you can also save them for winter. The calabash squash, I think you usually just eat them young. And when they get older, they may look like the butternut gourd. I'm not sure. I probably will try one and see how that works. Maybe I get, instead of a 2-globe bottle, I will get a long cylindrical bottle. I will see. I don't know how that works. Those are the seeds I bought, the squash that I bought seeds from the seed store. Summer squash, what that means is they don't store well for winter. And next I'm going to talk about the seeds that we collected. These are seeds that we collected from the squash we bought from the store. So we didn't buy seeds, we bought squashes. We ate the squash and saved the seeds and started our own squash collection. These are spaghetti squash. I don't know they store well through winter or not. I think they probably will, but the thing is the spaghetti squash died off in summer, so I didn't have a lot of production last year. So fortunately I got some seeds, and they were from the spaghetti squash I bought from Aldi. They actually have very good taste, and it's very easy to cook. You pop them into the microwave for a few minutes and scoop them out and mix with some sauce and make a very tasty meal. I'm glad I got these seeds, so I will plant more this year and then try to see if I can store them through winter or not. These are the capucha. So basically it's a pumpkin plant. They have very sweet taste and very starchy taste. So I really like it. It looks like for this plant it's better to grow them vertically, because when the pumpkin was sitting on the ground, it's easy to get rot. So I probably will set up a trellis for this to grow. The pumpkin are not very big. It's smaller than a volleyball. So I think that will work well on vertical planting. These are the seeds of the butternut squash. We got tons of butternut squash last year, and we still have about a dozen or so. We made butternut wines, we made butternut casserole, just different ways of making snack out of them. But we are not tired or sick of it. It's actually very tasty. This year I can see that we will plant a lot of them, and then so that they can last through winter and still give us the squash. The next two squash I will talk about, maybe they are not considered squash, but to me, they look like squash. The cantaloupes and the watermelons. I got the seeds from the cantaloupe I bought from Aldi. They did actually pretty well in the native clay soil last year. We got quite a few of them. We harvested a few younger ones so that before the freeze hit, and let it sit on the shelf for quite some time. And I think for maybe 2 or 3 months, and then I opened it up, and it was still good, and it smells great. I can actually plant the cantaloupe in the fall, and then get some green cantaloupe and let it mature on the shelf for winter, so I don't need to buy fruit for winter. These are watermelons. We have 2 sources of the watermelon seeds. One is from the watermelon that we bought from Aldi, and another one was from watermelon that we ate in a buffet, in the hotel buffet. And the watermelon was pretty good, so we saved the seeds and planted last year. The one that from the hotel buffet is actually a small size, about the size of a volleyball probably. It's great that you don't have a huge watermelon to deal with, and it's very tasty. The one from Aldi you buy is huge, but the one that we grown from seeds from that is a little bit smaller, but it's still quite size. I mix them together, and we'll see which one sprouts better and what kind of watermelon I will get this year. Similar to the cantaloupe, the watermelon seems to be, for the green one, if you harvest it like before the freeze and they are not mature, you can leave it just outside at room temperature. I had one that, again, I opened it up after New Year, and it was pretty good. The nice thing with the cantaloupe and the watermelon is, of course, that's not considered vegetable, it's considered fruit. Until we get our fruit tree to produce, this will be kind of a substitute for the fruit, so we don't need to go to the store for fruit. In this video, I talked about the seeds of the squashes. This is part 3 of a series that we talk about seeds. The idea is to have plant your seeds by families, and then you have trying to plant everything through the season so that you have the vegetable from the same family throughout the year to provide you a whole food diet. For squashes, of course, typically they only grow in warm and hot season. You cannot plant them in winter, but you can store some of them in winter, so you can still have squash in your plate or in your food throughout the season. In the next series, I'm going to talk about spices and the additives of things that we plant just for fun. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please give me a thumbs up. If you have any questions or comments, please leave it down below. If you have not done so, please hit the subscribe button to follow our journey with the East by West Farms.